Tozani, Emakosini, Tamaku. Thank you for joining me for another video. We're back in the house of Shem, and as promised, Mkhulu Mbazo has joined us today, and we are going to talk about his book. Mbazo has written Black People and the Five Pillars, a beginner's guide to ancestral reverence. And we're going to be talking about a few things that he is speaking about in this book. And siyathokoza Mkhulu for joining us. Thank you for agreeing to for me to host you. I have to say what I've learned from you so far is very humbling and awesome, and and I look forward to learning more from you. About Mkhulu. Mkhulu is a graduate from the University of the North. He is Mkhulu Mbazo as his spiritual name. He is the son of Isaac Wilson Mushwezi. He is a sangoma, he's umtandazi and a filmmaker. He studied filmmaking at Big Fish and is a director of 2 documentary films commissioned by the SABC. Amazing Grace and A Traveling Salesman, the story of Silo Deka. A student of the ancestors, he is Ikaba, the uneducated one, which makes him an organic intellectual. Siyathokoza Mkhulu, thank you for joining us.
Siyathokoza Khetla.
Yes.
There's a very deep story to the whole question of Khetla.
Yes.
I'm sure when we have time, to discuss it one day. People might be like, why is he calling a woman a Khetla? Siyathokoza Khetla.
Yes, and I never once on the channel ever once referred to myself as Khetla. But yes, he is right.
But it's very deep. Like I hope one time we can have some time to dwell more on that issue. I think let's begin from the beginning, Kok.
Yes.
I want to start by thanking you in terms of the work that you are doing, Kesh. Uqwashisa abantu bakithi, ukubavusa, we are doing exactly what a prophet should be. The role of a prophet is to be the conscience of the people, the conscience of the nation. Because njengabantu siyakhohlwa, we forget, we lose that consciousness that we were born with, And I'm very happy that you're using a platform like this because, like when you read Daniel 2 verse 44, for instance, they talk about a kingdom that will be built on earth, It will be a physical kingdom. Now it's in some place called heaven.
Yes.
Only as a reflection of a bigger kingdom that exists in heaven, And God makes a promise to us as Abantu that in the days of these kings, He shall establish a kingdom that will never be destroyed, that will consume and break into pieces all these other kingdoms. So Abantu Bafana now, where people like you, they come at a time where there is another kingdom that you are living under. And they're like, we need to establish a parallel kingdom to that, We don't have to wait for this other kingdom to fall. It begins with small things, Everything is a building block in terms of building that kingdom, And it has not been left to any other people. It has been left to us, And Mankuluma, when I talk about a prophet being the conscience of the nation, we need to understand that they are there to remind us of those things that we have forgotten. they're inside us. We have just forgotten who we are, you know. But without going very far, let me say, first of all, giving all praise and honor to the Holy One of Israel, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Ngiphinde ngithathe leli thuba ngithokozise ngihloniphe labe ngihamba nabo abakwamshwetsi nabakwankosi oDlamini. Ngibahlonipha with the understanding that I come from them, that one day I will go back to them only to be reborn again into this world again, in accordance with the commandment, honor your father and mother, so that your days shall be increased in the land that I'm giving you. So ngithi, with those few words, Gogo, I am happy to be here. I am honored. I do not take lightly this opportunity you have given me to share these messages from the ancestral world. To us. Yeah, to us.
Thank you for joining us on this channel. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. Mkhulu, you said something very striking just now. You said to remind us of the things that we forgot, the things that were lost. Mkhulu, what was that? Maybe like, what do you mean about those things that are lost?
It's the keys of life that were given to us as Abantu, you know. I think like it goes back to what went wrong with us as a people, you know. We must have done something very wrong, you know, to find ourselves in the condition that we are in. We were separated for a special purpose, you know, as Abantu. And for that special purpose, we are given certain laws that would serve as our guideline, you know. It was a way of separating us from other nations, because there have been many worlds before the world that but God was not happy with the way those people, like, they never acknowledged, or they could not be the apple of his eye, you know. And he founded a nation for himself that is separated to be the light of other nations. And he gave them a certain law, you know, or laws, a series of laws. Now, like, observing the law is not something that's it's something that's very difficult, you know. It's not something that's easy to do, you know. But following the law is what gives you that light, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just reminded of you saying that yes, the Lord is what gives us what makes us the light of the world.
Yes.
And the salt of the earth.
It does not make us. It does not give us that special privilege to discriminate against other people, you know. Because people have got a problem with this whole notion of a chosen people, you know. Why will God choose, you know? But we were people that he was happy with, you know, and we made an agreement with him. We had a covenant.
Yes.
And we broke the terms of that agreement. We were given certain blessings if we followed the terms of the covenant, you know.
Yes.
And certain cases if we did not follow those, the terms of that covenant, you know.
Yes. Okay.
So it becomes very deep, like, but it gave us that law so that it could become a blessing to other nations. And other people could say, this is such a wise and an understanding people, you know. Let us go and learn of their ways, you know. How do they worship, you know? Because when we talk about abantu abamsulwa, people who have no concept of sin, you know, is so no, or you know,
Yes.
who are perfection itself, because they are closest to God, you know.
Yes.
So us being chosen by God was a form of uktwasa as well, you know, because
Wow.
when you go through uktwasa, you have to make an agreement with the spirit world.
Oh.
That from now on, like, you are being separated, you live your life in a different way, you know. You'll always try to be better every day in whatever you're doing, you know.
Yeah.
You can be the light of the world. Yeah. Like we read even in the Bible itself that the law is the light.
Yes.
Yeah. You know,
Yes.
everything began with the law, you know. But the problem is that we reached a stage where we were convinced by an opposing spirit that this law is not the right way to follow, you know. And then, like, when it was presented to us, it looked like breaking the law is something that is good, you know.
Yes.
It's the whole story that goes
to
Adam and Eve, you know. Whatever that the serpent presented to Eve, she found it so attractive, you know. Little did she know that it was the beginning of her own destruction, you know. So it's all about remembering or trying to remind people of who they are, and maybe like going back to the whole question about the book, Black People and the Five Pillars.
Yes.
If I have to go back, I don't think I really intended to make it a book in the beginning.
Okay.
As a person like who's from a filmmaking background,
yes,
I actually had this idea of doing something called uNkulunkulu Nedlozi Nomuntu Omnyama, you know.
Wow. Okay.
But then, like, it's been over 10 years, you know. I started receiving messages from the ancestral world, you know. Everything that I was getting, like, I'll write it down, you know. And what I found very interesting was that in the number of questions, you know, like, that I'll pose to the ancestors, you know, or to the spirit world, they will instruct me to go to the Bible and read the Bible. And I will be like, what is it about this Bible, you know? Why am I constantly being directed? I thought, like, it's supposed to be a white man's book, you know? Only to find that, like, I can find myself and the history of the true story of our people. Like, how did we become so confused about what does the Bible talk about, you know? Then you start learning about, there is ilobolo here, there is isithembu, there is circumcision of soka, there is ukuhlanjululwa, you know. There is ungena, like, there is a concept of, like, when your brother's wife, this is brother's wife, yes. That is all in the Bible. It was done for certain reasons, you know. The question of ukusisa, I don't know, or like if you have heard of that concept, ukusisa, or I mean, like, there are so many concepts of this vivane, you know, like fetching, like, the bones of a person who was, you know, and you're like, yeah, you get to understand that. How did you become so confused about what the Bible is all about, you know, because it does not even mention one European country. All the countries that you read about in the Old Testament, the whole story of the Israelites took place in Egypt, you know. You get people like Moses, who actually never even left the continent of Africa.
Yes.
He could look at Palestine or Israel from the mountain in Africa, you know.
So, Mkhulu,
yeah.
Let me ask this. Can you just maybe a little bit shed light on how you came to find out that that we were the people in the book? Yes.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
I think Coco, like I grew up in a political storm. That's how I would describe it, you know.
Okay.
We grew up fighting apartheid, you know, like an oppressive system where our land was taken away. Virtually everything was taken away from us, you know. And we are trying to find justice, you know, and within that world, you know, you end up like becoming part of the political struggle, you know, for liberation. But one thing that was to learn later on was that our struggle was not just a political one, you know, it was a spiritual one. Why? Because you cannot go into a battle leaving your ancestors or God behind. You know? We thought like politics is our only solution. And then things became worse after freedom, you know. Then you begin to ask yourself a lot of questions, you know.
Yeah.
What's actually wrong with us as a people? Why are we always the tail and not the head, you know? Why are we called by all kinds of names?
I'm wondering if maybe that's a process that maybe every black person will actually go through, that you get to question like, why are we so hated? You know? I think it's everyone's journey, né?
Yeah, so like I think I moved like from different, you know, like I came from a background of what they call the Charterist movement or the Congress tradition, you know, which you will call the ANC today. But I later embraced more of Pan-Africanism, you know, because I thought there was something very spiritual about the land, you know. I thought people like Sobukwe were onto something right, you know. There's that thing about the land. How do you define yourself if you don't have, as a nation, if you don't have land, you know? And then I moved on to embracing like the teachings of Steve Biko. You know, when he says black men are on your own, it's all about liberating the mind, you know. But then like I began to have this feeling that they must have missed something, you know, that is spiritual, that is deeper than that, you know. Then what they identified, you know.
Yes.
And then I got attracted to a number of I think like one of the people that really impressed me a lot when I first heard him was Louis Farrakhan. You know, I'm like, wow, this guy is onto something, you know, like he's speaking so fearlessly, you know. I got attracted to, I got introduced to the teachings of people like Malcolm X, you know.
Yes.
But then like I met these guys through a friend of mine from America who spoke about black people being the people of the book, you know. And I'm like, this is, now it begins to make sense, you know. And I remember like I've grown up in a Christian background, you know.
Yes.
I remember like I remember I grew up in a Lutheran, like I grew up in I was raised by different families, you know. Firstly from my father's side and then from my mother's side, you know. We were strict Lutherans. We went to church every day. I mean every Sunday. And then when I moved to live with my Mkhulu, they were Catholics. And we went to a Roman Catholic. You know, like, so like you grow up in that whole environment of Christianity, you know. You don't really get to question a lot about some of the things that you do, you know, like you just accept there's Passover, there's Christmas, you know, like you pray in a certain way and everything, you know. And then at a later stage, there was that whole question of liberation theology, or what they call black theology. I joined an organization called, at high school, called Young Christian Students. It was part of the adopted the Freedom Charter, you know, interpreting the Bible in a certain way. you know, but still, like, it did not go to the heart of the matter, you know. Who are those people that we are talking about in the Bible, you know?
And predominantly, where do we come from?
And where do we come from, you know?
It's never been something that was addressed in the church.
Yeah, you see, yeah. So, like, when I met these guys, like, from America, who are saying, no, we are the people of the book, you know, we are the chosen people. And then you begin to try and find yourself, like, reading the Bible. It, at least for me, like, it explains one question that I have. Because I've met, like, people, like, who will tell you about the glory of Egypt, you know. The Rastas will talk about Haile Selassie and all that stuff, you know. We'll hear about how African people invented civilizations all over the world, you know. But then the question will remain, but what went wrong? You know, where did we lose it, you know? So for me, like, the Hebrew Israelites were the first people to actually locate the problem and say, my brother, the problem is spiritual. Once you tackle that whole question, you know, what is that Bible verse that says, seek you the kingdom of God?
Yes,
before,
seek
you know?
seek ye first the kingdom of God and all these
things. And all those things shall be added unto you. Yeah. So I think that's where we lost it, you know. We thought, like, politics must come first, or socio-economic issues or whatever. But then, like, having come across that knowledge, like, it brought me into a sense again now of having to deal with laws now, like separate laws.
Okay.
There is, like, a spirit that these people, like, who introduced me to who we are do not understand, because they have not gone through, they've been so disconnected.
Yes.
They went more than 400 years ago, you know.
Are these people that are overseas?
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
Okay. Outside of South Africa.
I mean, like, they're from America.
Okay.
And then, like, they moved to Israel, you know.
Okay.
They don't have that personal connection with the concept of Islam, or talk, you know. And those things, they troubled me, you know, because now you have adopted, now you know who you are, you know. But you cannot just go back straight to God, you know, like, without dealing with the issues of your family here, you know. Because that's where the whole question of inhlambuluko as well, ubahlambulula as well, you know, it comes from, you know. Which now, like, we have this ildozi or a spirit that is rising up again within you, you know. You don't know how to deal with it, and they cannot explain it because they have no concept of it, you know.
They will just
so I think, like, that's where, like, I started going on my own journey, you know, like, trying to find answers, you know.
Yes.
You know, like, when they talk about the Hebrew Israelites, when they were moving from Egypt into Palestine, they had to go through the desert, a physical desert, for 40 years. For me, I felt like that was a spiritual desert that I had to go through, you know. Yes. Because everyone has got their own journey to take, you know.
That's true.
Yeah. So it led me to that whole question now, like, you start consulting people, you know, certain messages, like, are always constant. You have to go through twice, you know, like, what does this thing mean, you know. You actually find out later on, it's actually about rebirth. The ancestors or the spirit rising within you, you know.
Yes.
Because there are some unresolved issues in their lifetime, you know. And because, like, life is all about connection, we can never be disconnected from those who came before us. And we can never be disconnected from those who will come after us, you know. There must always be a continuity. So that whole question of idlozi, that's where, for me, like, it comes from, you know.
Okay, Mkhulu. Yes, speaking of amadlozi, can you perhaps break down the concept of amadlozi and ancestors from the Bible? In your book, it's part of the second pillars I am so firmly interested, especially for those, like, can we maybe address those that have been taught and told that their ancestors are demons? That perhaps from the biblical perspective, when you look from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, what the Bible says when they were about to pass on. Can you break down for us?
I think like let's begin it from the whole question of the creation of the world, you know. So, Coco, like we are when it comes to a question about the biblical concept or ancestors as a biblical concept, it goes back to that. Maybe let me start with that verse, Genesis 15, verse 15.
Yes.
When Abraham is told by God that when he dies, he will join his ancestors in death. Already, like it answers a certain question for us. Where do people go when they die? You know, because it's always a burning question. We are taught otherwise by Christianity. I'm sorry, like I may be making some references to Christianity, you know.
Yeah, right.
But I feel that we have been too comfortable with the lie, you know. And it's unfortunate if I'm going to make other people uncomfortable about certain things, you know. But Yeshua or Jesus taught us that you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free, you know. And I find it very interesting that when you look at the term, the truth is called iqiniso, you know, from the word uqina. So it makes you strong, you know, instead of like debilitating you, like it makes you strong, you know.
That is so interesting.
Yeah, so I always talk about, I always go deep into the meaning of weight, you know, breaking down weight, you know, because that is what I specifically, it was a specific instruction from my ancestors, you know, to always go into the relationship between weights. They'll break them down for me. There is another weight that is hidden inside this weight, you know, because the whole concept of God as well is he's hidden in language, you know.
Tell us.
There is a language that we lost, and like when we lost that language, we lost the concept of God, you know.
Yes.
You can find him like in so many of our African languages, you know. For me, like I was specifically instructed to go into the Zulu Bible all the time, you know.
Yes.
Because I found that like it was actually even closer to the Hebrew thought than you'll have your English or Greek or Latin, you know. Proving, of course, yet again that we are the people of the book, you know.
Yes.
So going back to that question of the ancestors, you know, like when they tell us where Abraham will go, and then they tell us where his son will go as well, back to his father Abraham, and then Isaac, the grandson, will go back to his father Jacob, and go back to his grandfather Abraham, and Abo Kokoba, Abo Shem, like, you know, people who came before them.
Yes.
And then like they come from the spirit world into the physical world, only to go back to the physical, spiritual realm, only to come back again, because there is always that regeneration of life, you know. So that is where the whole concept of Idlos comes from, you know.
Yes. The going back to the fathers.
Yeah. Is that whole question of if you have to go forward, I'm sure you have heard of that concept of Sankofa, for instance, you know. If you have to go forward, you have to take something from your past, you know, like look back, and ancestors play that role to us, you know.
Yes.
When they say like is a job uh stand at the crossroads and look for the ancient parts, you know.
Yes.
That's where you'll find life. Just to paraphrase, you know, it. For me, the whole concept of ancestors, that's where it comes from, you know. We always have to go back to them, find out the old ways. So this is a spirit that rises, it's always within you, but it rises at a certain point, you know.
Yes.
To guide your life, because like they need to come back and live, and they can only live through you as that vessel, you know. They need that shell. Wow. Even though they are gone, they need to come back and live through you, you know.
Yes.
And finish maybe like certain tasks that you're giving to them, but they never, or like pass over certain gifts that were meant for the physical life.
Yes.
And they can no longer use it in the ancestral world, you know.
Yeah.
So the whole question of ildos, that's where it comes from. We say like I've heard people talking about ukuvukwa kwedlozi, you know.
Yes, yes.
No, they talk. Yeah, ukuvuka kabusha, you know. That is actually a form of reincarnation or a form of rebirth or recycling, you know, of life.
Have,
you know,
like a new awakening.
Yes, yes. And it comes in so many concepts in the Bible, you know. You look at the whole creation of the world. God is talking to certain spirits from the beginning, you know. And we understand that these spirits are what you'll call amadlozi, you know. He says, let us create man in our own image, you know. He's constantly talking to some other spirits, you know, even though he's chief supreme spirit, you know. He's always talking to,
communicating.
Yes. Let us do this and that, you know. And when he creates man out of the soil of the earth, he breathes into his nostrils umoya.
Yeah.
And he becomes a living soul. So this person like is not a living soul until he gets umoya. It was not, the job of God was not complete when Adam was still just a body without umoya, you know.
Yes.
And the umoya lona, it needs to come to always rise within a person.
Yes.
You know, like in different lifetimes, you know. Because it's not just a concept of, so ildos is not just a concept of rebirth only.
Yes.
For us, it is our understanding of everlasting life.
Yes.
Because this spirit never dies, you know.
Yes. It just moves from
one generation to another, one compartment to another.
Yes.
You know. And it's very deep, you know, like you encounter it so many times. There is a man who was called Nicodemus, for instance, you know.
Yes.
He came to Yeshua at night because he could not be seen to be consulting somebody who was considered maybe like he's got some very fringe ideas, you know, about
very robust.
You know, about the world.
Zealous.
He was literally considered to be uhlanga, you know. He could not grasp the simple concept of what is rebirth, ukuvuka kabusha, you know. That's when then we talk about uktwasa, you know. Jesus says to him, you must be reborn in both water and spirit, you know. And like when you look at the world, the creation of the world, it's also created with water and spirit, you know.
Wow. So Mkhulu, you're saying, this is so basic, like you're trying to say that the process of the earth creation is a process of Uktwas.
It's a process of Uktwas.
And the process of,
because we are moving from
dying.
from one stage of darkness into a stage of light,
Oh, wow.
There was a time when the world was not conscious.
Yes.
And then when God was creating it,
yes,
he was bringing consciousness into the world, because it was a world without the knowledge of God, and he had to create a special people who could have that understanding of God, That's where the whole concept of a chosen nation comes from. Again,
yes,
that you are separated from the rest of the people. You become the special born, the firstborn of the whole nations, so that all other nations could be blessed because of you.
yes.
So they are given something that is called isiko or umthetho. The word isiko is taken from the word uksika, to cut away, to separate, and we can tell from the word uksika already that it's not a nice process.
Yes.
You'll hear abantu besifazane bekhuluma ngomntwana bathi kuyasika, bekhuluma ngomntwana wakhe, they feel for that baby because they know the pain of giving birth, but lo mntwana was also separated from them, as part of Utwasa, So it's a very deep concept, Gog, it's not easy to follow the law, it's not easy. That's why I always go back to that whole story of Adam and Eve as well, that when they were given something that was contrary to what they had been given, it looked attractive, something that to be enjoyed, but it was their own death, So there's a spirit that always wants to rise within us, These people they are your intuition,
Yes.
That voice that talks to you when you are cooking, put that spice, put that, You think when you are drawing, your head is just moving, You don't know, then afterwards, you've got this whole beautiful creation in front of you, Because you're actually born to be creators ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah, we need to replicate God, So that whole concept is very deep, of idlozi, and it can rise up for different reasons in a person, Some people are just meant to be healers,
Yes.
Some of them ungatwasa so that you can become an artist. You can sing,
Yes.
Ungatwasa so that you can teach, because we have been given that spirit of teaching or wisdom of teaching, Because I always say, the work of a prophet is to be a teacher more than anything else, When you read about Yeshua in the Bible, all the time his disciples will refer to him as teacher or a rabbi, In isiZulu we call it umfundisi as opposed to umfundisi, It just changed. It changed pronunciation, but it's actually umfundisi. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So you so I want you to also explain, because you did say that it's a process. Uktwas is a process of changing from one form to another. Okay. And the concept of ancestors is biblical. Like when you look at Abraham, how he went back to his fathers.
Okay. Yeah.
So when we speak about a person's spirit, what is involved in a person's spirit? Which father is like from the mother side or the father side? Which fathers that
what constitutes laws, you know, what are we talking about? Mkhulu, laws.
yeah.
You go back again to that whole question of how Adam and Eve were created, you know. God creates Adam, man, from the soil of the earth, you know, and he takes from Adam from in one of his ribs, you know. He creates the woman, you know, and Adam says this one shall be called Mbazo, you know, like unkosikazi wami, you know, because such a
from my rib.
yeah. So a woman is supposed to go back to the source of her being in daughter as well, you know.
Okay.
When she meets a man and gets married, you know, there are two processes you were saying. You go uyokhuleka, you know, uyocela isihloko esihle to the other family, you know. And then like you produce or you pay what is called a lobolo, which is a form of a covenant that we are taking this person, you know, because we have to look at how do people gain membership into a certain family, you know. We are either born into it in a certain family, but then when you're a woman and you get married, you gain membership of that family through ilobolo. You know, it's a way of symbolizing the fact that two people have come together now, you know, taking with them their ancestors, you know, their respective ancestors into this union, you know. But then the woman now belongs to the family of the husband through ilobolo. And when she dies, she has to go to the family of that husband, because everyone else, when they die, they have to go back to their own family. But when you get married, you are taken away from your family as a woman into the husband's family.
You are joined now.
Yeah. And then like the children who are born from that union between the man and wife, they belong to the father. They go back to belonging to the father. And that's where they are supposed to go back again as well when they die, you know. So the right hand side of a man will be what constitutes your paternal side, or of a person, and then the left hand side will be your maternal side, you know. They come together into this person, you know, into one person. And then like that relationship is going to flow either vertically or horizontally, you know.
How so?
So that like your son becomes yourself, you know. He's made in the image of his father. Just like Adam was created in the image of his father, God, you know.
And that relationship is what, vertical?
Yes, that one then will be vertical, you know. But it's basically the same person replicating or duplicating themselves, you know. And then this whole person again can be duplicated in a horizontal form through your brother. And your sister, you know. Hence you'll have like what you call auntie or babegas, you know. So the auntie is your mother or babegazi in a feminine form, you know. And the baba mncane or the baba Mkhulu is still your father in the masculine form and in a horizontal form, you know.
So your aunt is your father in a feminine form.
Yes. Yes, in the feminine form. And then umalume wakho is your mother in a masculine form. Why do we say that? Because those are the people that, in the absence of your physical or biological father,
Yes.
We have to do certain rituals.
Yes.
Those are the first people that you go to, because they're still the extension of your father and mother.
Yes.
You know, like in your respective ways.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
So that is what we are talking about when we talk about the whole concept of illos. What constitutes illos, you know? Which are the people now that when you have a problem, you go and approach. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So what constitutes illos is your parents.
Yeah.
But your parents also are the female and the masculine forms being your parents' siblings.
Yeah. So the whole question of upahla, for instance.
Yes.
The term upahla is taken from the word upahla. Those are the people abakupahlile.
Okay.
Which means that your maternal side and your paternal side abantu abakupahlile.
Oh,
yeah,
they surround
you. Surrounding you, you know. The term of partner means to surround yourself, you know.
With your loved ones.
So yeah, you always have to get them with back partner all the time, you know, because once you are outside that circle, then you start having problems, you know. There's a disconnect between yourself and the spirit world.
Okay. Okay, so Mkhulu, like, why is it so important that we must do rituals? Or why, Fanesi, like you mentioned the concept of Sankofa, why must we always be looking back? Why is there an emphasis on ancestors and rituals and the likes? And why is it that we have to do these rituals? Why can't we live like other nations that don't practice such? Is it possible that we can live without these rituals and live without our ancestors?
No, we can't, because those rituals are what constitute who we are, you know, as a people. We were separated for a special purpose, you know. The law is not just our light, it's what gives us power, you know. Because the law was given to us. We are the people who made an agreement with God, you know. When we made a covenant with Him, it was a form of trust, and we don't break the rules of or the terms of the covenant, you know. The law that was given to us was supposed to be, it might look like a responsibility or a heavy burden, but it was our blessing as well, you know.
Yes.
So that if we observe the law, we could also become a blessing to other nations as well, you know. But because God separated us as His own very special possession, you know, we needed to do those things that made Him happy, you know, that I've created these people, because the others are known that they are always going to deviate, you know, from the law.
Yes.
But we chose the darkness of other nations, you know. We thought like it was attractive. We're not supposed to eat anything, you know, because there are certain kinds of food that have got the ability, you know, like to
make you to defile you.
To defile you,
yes,
you know.
Yes.
And we're given this whole question of this whole concept of inhlambuluko all the time, you know. That's why we're even given like a certain day of the year.
Yeah.
Like what you'll call a day of reconciliation, you know. To go in front of God and admit all our sins for that particular year, and then it's going to be forgiving so that you can start all over again, you know. So every year we're supposed to go through Twasa.
Yes,
you know, like in a way rebirth all the time, because siyama sami siqhuzuwe njengabantu, you know, and he gave us that grace to say now and again, once we have transgressed the law, we have the ability to come back to me by doing these rituals, you know. Yeah.
Beautiful. So these rituals, if we want to get to know God and we want to get close to God, the rituals are what God made the way in the law so that we would never be separated from Him.
Yeah, that's the whole idea behind it, you know. I think, like, which takes me back now to the question of the book, Black People and the Five Pillars. A beginner's guide to ancestral reverence. I have to mention from the beginning that, like, when these pillars were first given to me by the ancestors, they made it clear that they are not the end of it, you know, like it's just an introduction, you know. But more than anything, as a people, first we have to find alignment again with God, you know. We have to go back to God.
Yes.
There is a controversy between us and God because we broke the law, you know. And then, in accordance with the commandment, honor thy father and thy mother, so that the land that I'm giving you, or you live long in the land, that I'm giving to you. We have to honor our ancestors. That becomes the second pillar. You know, we cannot go back to God and leave our ancestors behind, because they are our connection to God. You know? And then the whole question of family, it becomes the third pillar, because if you look at all the problems, like as a Sankofa, for instance, you know, maybe 99% of the time, when we are trying to diagnose a problem of a person, you'll find that about 99% of the time, it's about the spiritual world. That disconnection or disconnect that has happened between you, the living, and the living dead, you know. Whatever problems that we experience at family level is because of a spiritual problem that starts with, you know. It leads to broken families. It leads to, you know, like the statistics in South Africa will tell you that people are likely to be hurt by people who are closest to them, you know. Then it means that there's something wrong with the family, you know, the family structure. You need to go and fix it more than anything else. How do you do that? Like by fixing him some, you know, so that, like, you can solve all these other problems, like that we have, like of corruption and greed and violence, you know. Our children going into drugs, you know. Somebody like failing to get a wife or a husband, you know, the divorces, you know. It's as a result of our society is broken simply because our families are broken. And we need to fix families more than anything else. And how do we deal with fixing families? By connecting to our ancestors, you know. And then it moves into the pillar of the land, you know. The land is central to everything, you know. Without the land, we are nothing, you know. Because no matter what type of ideas you have, you cannot live them in space. You have to live them in a physical context or physical land towards. And then you have culture, amasiko, rituals, you know. Those are the things that keep us grounded, you know.
And keep us in the light.
Because So we have to try and find alignment with all those 5 pillars before we can move anywhere.
As a people.
Yeah.
Or as families.
Yeah.
And as individuals.
So like, I mean, like, it keeps on adding, like to issues of royalty,
Yes.
We are supposed we are given kings, so that like the king could be the chief or the high priest of the tribe,
Yes.
When there is no rain, you can go to the king and ask for rain, He's not a dictator, he's got his own form of democracy.
Yes.
For a lack of a better word, called Libandla. But the most important family structure begins with the family, at family level.
Yes.
Yeah. So when those people were against us, needed, like there's a verse in the Bible about where Jesus talks about if you want to destroy a man, like you have to remove the strongest people.
Oh yeah, you bind the strong man.
You bind the strong man. That's what happened to us, like they had to bind first the king and his Sangoma.
Yes.
Because those were the 2 most important people in the tribe or the nation, They made the whole concept of kingship like not attractive anymore. Now this thing is it does not conform to the times, to the changing times and everything, And then the Sangoma became the most demonized person,
Yes.
But when you look at the Bible, you find that they are just Isangomas everywhere,
Yes.
And hopefully, like, we can talk more about that, the whole concept of Isangoma, like in our next segment. Yes. Yeah.
No, thank you, Mkhulu, for sharing with us. It was so enlightening, and we'll definitely have you again. Thank you for sharing with us. Ngiyathokoza and ngibonga ney'ndlondlo ey'nkulu ezakha nawe. Nkosi ibusise Mkhulu, and I hope you keep on rising and educating us so that we can be a people who find themselves in the perfect will of God. Yeah.
No, go towards like I said, we are in the middle of building a kingdom, the kingdom of God that Yeshua Ben Yosef spoke about. It's no longer just something that is up there in the sky, it's here, It's all about remembering who we are and finding that connection again,
Awesome.
And it starts with shows like yours, whereby we are talking to, sometimes like it feels like we are preaching to those people who are not converted, But it takes patience as well. Because remember that Noah, before that well was destroyed, he was teaching for more than 40 years,
Yes.
And people just went about with their lives as if like they have not heard anything.
Yes.
They were going to parties, they were working, like enjoying their lives and everything, It was just another day in the office, business as usual, And then, but it happened one day that it started raining, And they thought it was going to stop,
Yes.
And when the rain grew stronger, they remembered, hey, where is that man? That old man Noah, And he was nowhere to be found anymore, Yeah. So it's always my prayer that like when you hear the word of the prophet, you can know what time is it,
Yeah.
And not be like that guy that they speak about in the story of Lazarus,
Yeah.
It takes you back again to that question of laws again, because they're actually talking about how much laws there,
Yes. Yeah.
But unfortunately, the answer the man was giving was that
They
there can be no salvation for you now. It's too late, you know. You did not listen
and
to the
your
prophets, you know.
brothers
Yeah.
have the law and they have the prophets.
They
You
had
can't
the law
listen
and the
to
prophets, you know. Yeah.
that, it's over.
So it's always my prayer that we are not going to hear the message until it's too late, you know.
Yes.
So with those words, Gogo, ngiyathokozisa, ngiphinde ngibonge again for the opportunity that you have given me, and I hope we can have more of these interviews or these segments in future. Siyathokoza.
Thank you. Please join us again next time. Thank you.